is 11 hours 35 in Guyana, and it is time for Elections and COVID Watch with senior journalist of Cairo News, Leonard Gildarie, alongside Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Yes, good afternoon. How are you doing, Kevin Smith? And of course, I want to say good afternoon right away to my co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. How are you doing, Yog?
Very well. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to you and Kevin Smith, and of course, to our viewers and listeners.
Yes, thank you very much. I was about to say that, but if you want to take it over, I have a little problem here. I feel a little stuffy here. I'm not sure whether I'm coming on with something, so I ask our listeners and viewers to bear with me a little as I try to bring it under control here. But it is a very, how you say it, a very humid day out there. I think the rain is going to come. And I want to say one more day. It's a beautiful day. I thank God for life. And of course, I want to say, keep your heads up, Guyana. Keep your heads up. And wherever you are, if you're listening to us from across this nation here, we hope that you have a very positive attitude. We have a very positive attitude. I think it's about 2 more days or so before the elections. 25 days comes to an end. I think I saw today there's some talks about a June the 16th, Yoga, June the 16th deadline in which this election is supposed to be over with and done. According to my count, that would be 3.5 months. 3.5 months after we would have gone to the polls. Not a good thing. We should not be happy. We should be very unhappy with this, but it is slowly, we think it's winding down. Let's see what happens. Keep our fingers very crossed. And we're going to have some discussions on that. Today there's so many things that we have to discuss. In a very short while, we're going to be hooking up with an award-winning journalist, our correspondent in Suriname, Ivan Cairo. Very interesting fellow. He wears, by the way, he has what's those things that you call that is over your eyes? He has a pirate thing over his eyes. That thingy. I think you know what it
That
is.
patch, the
Yes.
eye patch, yeah.
Yes, he has that. You see him, he looks like a real pirate, but the guy is a heck of a journalist, Yog. And so he has been a good friend of ours for a very long time. And so he's going to be there because he's in the midst of the elections, what is happening over there. We know that things are not so usual. But there seems the impression that I get is that Suriname has it under control. They're hoping to get this over with within the next couple of days, and he says we're gonna do it. He told me that we're gonna do it before you people in Guyana do it. So let's see what happens there. So good afternoon to you wherever you are in New York, in Canada, and of course we had somebody from Mexico yesterday. We always have somebody from Norway hooking into us across the Caribbean, our neighbors, Suriname, Trinidad, Barbados, wherever you are, Guyanese. I want to say good day to you. So, Yog, let's get right into it. Lots of things to talk about today, June the 16th. Do we have any confirmation as to that, whether there's anything nailed down at this point in time?
No, nothing has been confirmed with regards to the date. I think what I've learned is that they are to meet for that confirmation. There are a number of other things that's capturing their attention too. Remember, all of these inconsistencies and so-called anomalies and all of these things are engaging the commission's attention as we speak. In addition, of course, to the very primary concern of the length of time these recounts are going to take. One of the good things that we can tell everyone too, I think, Region 5 was completed yesterday. Region 3 is completed. Of course, we know 1 and 2 would have been completed. And I think 10 has now started. So that would be interesting to look at how that count is going. I must say that one of the amazing things is that as the stations become available, it has not been allocated to the heavyweight of Region 4. But however, one additional station has been allocated to Region 4, District 4. So at least something has happened. I mean, if we were everybody telling us be positive, you and I have been telling everybody be positive. So the good news is that a couple of regions, districts are completed, and one more workstation would have been allocated to District 4.
But I understand Region 3 and 7, they're saying it's going to be completed today. I think there's projections.
Yes.
So that happens to
Well,
be.
my understanding is that districts 3 and 7 has been completed as of this moment. However, we need official confirmation from GCOM, which I'm sure the journalist there would probably get for us as soon as possible. But my information is 3 and 7 would have been completed at this time, probably about half an hour ago.
And I see the media is saying that Region 9, that very big area there with not so
Mm,
many votes, is going to be completed by tomorrow morning. So, by
correct.
all projections, let me make a call now. If everything goes according to this trajectory, everything based on this projections that we have here, I'm going to say Yog. We could look at a next week completion. That is if everything goes smoothly, but anything can happen, and we know that during this election period, there's so many things that we haven't catered for that has happened, from court cases to walkouts to sickness, somebody getting a semi-heart attack, among other things. So
Correct.
we have to be. We'd have to keep our fingers crossed. We want this over
Correct.
with to be over with and done pretty quickly.
Hmm.
And so I saw this morning there's some news that's coming out with regards to CARICOM now with COVID, with the reopening of travel in the region. And I think CARICOM, it's engaging CARICOM's attention. CARICOM wants a date, Yog. They want a date in which to start working, and so they could be able to put some measures into place. But I think they have an uphill task there. This thing here, I like for Guyana, for instance, while yesterday you would have mentioned what is happening in Trinidad, Yog,
Hmm.
that they are doing a partial reopening, and that's very good news. I don't think there's any cases that is in within any kind of
Isolation.
isolation at the moment.
Right.
They are looking pretty good there. However, countries like Guyana, we've seen while other countries in the Caribbean is reporting a decline in the number of cases. We are reporting upward climb. So what is happening? I think Region 9 and Region 7 today. Region 9 that's bordering with Brazil, and Region 7, which is the gold rich area, mineral rich area. They are both rejecting any calls for a closure of mining within those two regions. And let me tell you how important that is. We would have seen the debate yesterday. Why do you allow oil and why do you allow oil and mining to remain as essential services or essential businesses to remain open while you've closed commerce? And then you see cases cropping up in those areas. And we know what is happening at the Brazil borders. So the debate is on that right now. And the authorities over in Region 9 and 7 spoke to them this morning, including again the mayor for Bartica, Gifford Marshall. And he's making it very clear it's a very difficult thing to contemplate at this point in time. He is not contemplating it, and he doesn't believe that the authorities are going to do it because Bartica depends on it. Now, you and I could quarrel and rail against that in a very big way as to why are you keeping the mining open, and then George Sung, people who want to be in business, want to operate the business, they're being closed. Now, you and I also know that there's a safety aspect. If you keep your business open, you're going to be dealing with people. But while we closing the door down in the Georgetown area, on the coastal area, in the hinterlands, the back door and the side door, and all the windows and the whole wall is open there, so everything is happening. So that is another thing that we'd have to look at. But let me stop there for a little while and probably hear your thoughts, because this evening too, there's some interesting things that's going to happen with regards to elections and room 592.
Yes, thank you, Leonard. And I just want to put a different perspective to the comment you made with regards to the whether mining is essential or not. I think one of the perspectives we need to put into it is that if you look at the mining sector, it is probably different, unique as compared to Regent Street commerce or Rob Street commerce or stuff like that. Because here's the following: the workers within the mining sector, they will not be traversing using public transportation, going in and out. At least that is the hope here. And so maybe it is anticipated that it is a more controlled operation, because when you're doing your dredging and you're in the bush, as we say in Guyana, you're there. Access, ingress, egress is reduced. We spoke to the two persons from Bartica And they did intimate to the fact that the numbers of persons going through that gateway would have reduced. So there is a containment in terms of the number of persons, thankfully. So from that perspective, maybe we can look at it differently. You look at commerce in Georgetown, Stabroek Market. I think, Leonard, I got a report that there was some persons went to erect some of these billboards and so forth. You know, the COVID advisory stuff.
Yes.
And they couldn't in the wet markets area because people need to appreciate wet market has a very very intense scrutiny in terms of how you must protect yourselves. But they couldn't because the market was jam packed. They had to go another time. And it speaks to people who were mixing and mingling in a total public place and then using public transportation back and forth. And that's where the danger is.
Now, which brings another situation into perspective here, Yog. Lockdown versus proper policing, proper monitoring. And I'm seeing a debate that's being raised right now. I think we would have heard rumors about a total lockdown. I'm not sure what a total lockdown is. There has not been an explanation because it hasn't come out officially as yet. However, it seems to be the rumors of that seems to be happening all the time. So I want to ask you if you have any idea what that entails. And the second thing is, there's some feelings in some camps that what we should do, the issues that we're having right now that people don't really understand. In any case, when you got to earn money, you're not going to be thinking about your safety, and we're throwing caution to the wind. We could criticize how much we want, but you and I sat on this program here for the last 2 months or 3 months or so, and we would have been hearing people talking about, well, it's very, very hard, and, we are desperate. So I want to ask you if it's an issue of just strengthening our police and our mechanisms that we have there, or it's an issue that's cultural that probably would have no resolutions.
Sorry, Leonard, the issue is bigger than that. Look, the truth is that Guyanese have not been given adequate information. Can you say how many, if any, of the persons who were in quarantine would have been from a particular geography or not? We don't know. Information is not being dispersed to identify where the main problem areas would have been. We heard of the Sophia Liliendahl / Cherry Street being a hot spot. We don't know what the other hotspots are. If the Babulal family were not publicly in the public domain from day one, you would not have known that, okay, East Coast had a problem. So for the population, for you to say there is a lockdown without saying what are the hotspots and why can't we lock the hotspots down? And finally, to that point, Leonard, if Corriverton, for example, as we heard 3 days ago, has been so stringent, has been so good, so disciplined in their approach to COVID-19, why should they suffer the consequences of a total lockdown because the rest of the country have not been observing all the protocols? And in addition, why should they suffer the consequences of a total lockdown without knowing whether they are at risk or not? Information has to be more available to everyone in this country.
And you're so right, Yog. I could remember recently somebody raised the issue. So if you, Yog, live in Sophia and you work in Georgetown, you only go home in the evening, and they find that you're positive, and a couple of people at your workplace positive. One lives in Diamond, one lives in Prospect, and you live in Sophia. Would you say Prospect, Sophia, and Diamond are the hotspot?
Exactly.
So we need more information, because you could be
Correct.
working GRA. I'm just calling it a thing there with all due respect to those people there. You could be working GRA, and so that is a hot spot because that's probably where you got it. So you can't come out. You got to be careful with information because somebody was raising that point, which I think is very very pertinent. You got to careful how you stereotype or whatever you want to call it, and say that these areas here are hotspots because Niaz or somebody would have been from a particular area. You say that's a hotspot. Is it? I'm not sure. That's just one of the arguments that we hear.
Yeah, but you could argue about the stereotyping. You could argue about all of those good points. You made those are excellent points. Why not have a continuous, consistent dialogue with the nation? When last has COVID made a non-political appearance to this country? So it boggles the mind, Leonard, that the COVID-19 task force, when last has the task force made a non-political appearance to this country? It's always been about their political rightness. You're always hearing them making statements about the politics, but nothing about COVID. And it is extremely important to this country. They need to be open with information. In addition, if you look at the statistics, you need to have a greater or better understanding of the statistics. Recently, we would have heard that some patients were being moved into the facility that is still under construction. But you're not getting any full-blown information where you reporters can go and can question them. Okay, what do you mean? How many are moved? Where they're from and stuff like that. And that's what's lacking here. It's a public health crisis, not a private one.
Yes, and that's it. In the meantime, let's jump straight into what is happening on the front page of Cairo News here. Let me see. Shareholders lambaste ExxonMobil for inadequate response to climate change. They would have had some kind of meeting there, and I think the shareholders went up to management there. And so they're telling them that you're not doing enough to help climate change and the impact that Exxon's activities would have had, and what they would have done to reduce that. And then, of course, there's this very big picture here. We have a operation. We have our operations offshore, 100 miles from our shores here. And a couple of weeks back, I think the questions were raised after Exxon was found flaring. I think it's 2 billion barrels. You probably know the figures a little more with me. But what is happening here, it has put Guyana among the top 10 oil-producing countries releasing toxic chemicals into the atmosphere. And the international law firm is saying this. And so that's not something that we would want to be tagged with. One of the top 10 countries releasing toxic chemicals into the atmosphere. And let me bring this into perspective. We have, before you could even have begun to have started any operations offshore, any activities with the oil, you were supposed to have gone through a lot of hoops and hurdles in order to satisfy the authorities here when it comes to your environmental plan. How do you intend to do certain things? Flaring would have been one of them. That is the extra the gas that comes up, that you just don't release it into the atmosphere. You have to do something to it. And so Exxon would have released it. But Yog, a little more over to you. What does this mean? Because why is it important to us at this point in time? We seem to be taking our attention is focused on COVID-19 and of course elections 2020, and we're not paying attention to oil and what we get in. We went through so many months of quarrel over the last 5 years, and so many stories we would have seen, and it has to do with the dollars that is ending up in our pockets, our revenues into Guyana. So I want to hear probably your thoughts on that pretty quickly.
Well, Leonard, to put it this way, Guyana is not, on its own, regardless of how some political operators may want to say, we don't need the rest of the world, stay out of our business. When we pollute the air, we are polluting the world's air. We are polluting the world's treasure trove. Now, remember, Norway, for example, would have invested in our carbon wealth here, in our forests. Now, if we are at the same time burning and creating environmental disasters over and above to the monies Norway is investing in our forests, it's a zero sum game, and Norway will have to re-examine whether Guyana is worth its investing. Now, you might say we got our money, we don't need Norway's money. Really? What about your children and great grandchildren? Because the oil will run out one day, and we got to work in such a way that not when the oil run out, by then the ozone layer is also depleted, or we would have contributed to another depletion of the ozone layer. So all of those things need to be taken in consideration, as well as the fear of international litigation. If Guyana has not ensured that all of the right things are in place, checks and balances are in place, you could face litigation from different countries from an international perspective. And the final thing I'll say, Leonard, is that look at oil however which way you want, but it's ours. It's the people of Guyana's own. And when you are flaring, meaning burning up, when you're burning up over 2 billion cubic feet of gas, this entire basin, this entire country and our neighboring countries, can you imagine how much wealthier we would have been having that gas, tap it, sell it, and get that revenues, or tap it, bring it to shore, and distribute it to the people of this country and, of course, our neighbors. It would have taken us a far way.
Yes, absolutely. So we're trying to get connected right now to Suriname, where we want to bring you what is happening with the elections. Elections were held on Monday, and they were supposed to have had an announcement, a declaration. So he's on the air. So we're gonna try calling him right now while that's happening. But Yog, in the meantime, let me tell you, there's that story there with the 300 Guyanese who were stranded abroad, and they were given approval last week to return to Guyana by the task force, the National COVID-19 Task Force. The task force made it very clear yesterday that last week when they issued that approval, they would say, look, you're going to come back at your own cost, and then if you produce a certificate that you would have taken the NCR test, I think it is, you could probably jump on a plane and then come back. But it made it very, very clear yesterday there's some other conditions that you must fulfill when you fill out the application to come back here. Number one, I think the biggest thing for us is that they're saying that even though you might have a negative test, when you come back here, you automatically will have to be in quarantine. That's one. But there's a little funny side that people were making laugh about yesterday, which is that when you come back, you have the possibility of either staying at one of the government institutions, which probably would have food, Wi-Fi. That's another issue by itself. But you have some facilities you could stay there at the state institution free of cost. But you also have the option of staying at least two hotels. I think it's a Brandsville Hotel, and I think another one, some funny name, Barcara or something. But you pay for your own meals. But the guys were making some laugh off it, whether it's a short time hotel or so. But that is not a story. But what is important is that the task force says you come back, you have to go into quarantine. And so I think, at the end of the day, we have to continue paying attention. You just can't just bring back persons, although we understand that you've been stuck abroad there for a little while. But if we're not bringing back people here and just putting them back into the system, people would be walking among each other. You need to go through the necessary quarantine and so on. And then, of course, Bartica, you head to Bartica. Prisoners isolated there, others quarantined over suspected COVID-19 case. Yog, I think we are being joined right now by
Yes.
our correspondent in Suriname there, Ivan Cairo. Ivan, you hearing us, sir?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Thank you very much. I'm myself, Leonard Gildarie, is here with Dr. Yog Mahadeo, my co-host on Cairo Radio 99.1, 99.5. You can also get us on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Cairo, my dear friend, you've been with us for a couple of years. Mr. Cairo, if you don't know, happens to be a journalist that has been in this business for decades, well known across the Caribbean. He's an award-winning journalist. I think he would have had his attachment to the Diwari tide. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. My Dutch is not that very good, but he is very close to us at Kaicho News as well as he has his affiliations with a number of media houses in Guyana. Very experienced journalist, and so sir, I want to say welcome on to Kaicho Radio here, and of course to the people of Suriname, we want to say hello. We want to hear from you, Cairo, about what is happening in Suriname with regards to elections. General elections were held on Monday. You could tell us a little about what happened and what is at stake here.
Well, at this moment, we had the election on Monday, and as we speak, all of the ballots has been counted. But I don't know how you call it in English, but we call it here the procession verbal, the statement of polls
Yes, the same thing
that
here.
have to be, yes, that have to be processed, and I think about 100 to still be processed, and it's taking a little bit too long according to the general public.
So there are some issues there going on because we paid very close attention to that. We in 3.5 months now since we would have had our elections on March the 2nd. So of course we want to see what happened to our sister nation. What is happening there? It was said before they're going to be over with and done, but we understand there's some hiccups.
Well, yes, there are several issues here, because just this morning, after me and you spoke this morning, there was a press conference by the political parties who have won seats, excluding the incumbent, the NDP. That last night there was a possible attempt to should I say, do some fraud here, and one of the political parties, the leaders, he himself came to the main polling station to observe what was happening. And during the press conference, he told the media that he saw there the statement of polls out of boxes and stuff like that, as if individuals wanted to carry them away. And they alleged that possible agents of the ruling party were trying to do some fraud or to rig the polls, and they are calling on the authorities to to take their job seriously and announce the preliminary results. As we speak of now, the VHP, one of the political parties in the opposition, they won 20 seats in parliament. The NDP, 16, that's the party of President DC Bouterse.
Hmm.
The ABOP of Mr. Ronnie Brunswick, 7. The MPS, 4. Percaya Luhur, 2. And another party that is also in the coalition, in the government, 2. So, in fact, the government had lost the elections, and people are alleging that that's why we can't have the preliminary results announced yet. I
So
will give you just an impression, because I'm at the main polling station now. I'm not sure if you can see it. You will see the boxes with all the statement of polls. Let me know if you're getting a clear view.
yes, we're getting you clear. Speak up a little.
Wow, that is amazing. That video speaks a lot, and it shows, even though it is slow, it shows a willingness to be very open, Leonard,
Yeah.
transparent.
Yes, yes. So I think we have lost some feet from him there. Ivan, we have lost you there for a little while. But what
You
he's
got
saying,
me?
we lost you there for a little while. Could you just repeat?
Hello, hello.
Yes, we
Yes,
hear you
we.
now. Go ahead, Ivan.
Yeah. And what is new at this election? Because the people don't trust the government that we will have some, like say, some a transparent process. People are staying and sleeping here of the, in the polling station, just to make sure that nothing happens to those boxes.
So what were we looking at there? It was a little
Those are
small.
the boxes with
Uh-huh.
all the statement of polls of the polling stations from the main polling district Paramaribo, like
Mhm.
267 polling stations. Those are the declarations in those boxes. And people are staying here, sleeping here in the polling station. It's a sports complex. People are sleeping in the stands to make sure that nobody touches those boxes.
And there's some similarities here. Yog, it sounds very, very familiar. Just one other thing before I hand you over to my co-host, Ivan. I want to ask you. We saw some reports. I saw some reports unverified, which says that the ruling party, headed by President Desi, reportedly ordered the army to guard some places and to shoot anybody who attempted to enter or move about.
Well, it's regular that during elections, that police and army are utilized to guard certain places and locations. So that is nothing new with elections in Suriname. It's just a normal thing.
Yog,
Interesting. Ivan, good to see you. My question for you, sir, is I must say I am very much appreciative that people, all the boxes and everything are there, and regardless of the fact that the process is going very slow, but everything is happening in front of everyone. And you have said that people are sleeping there, staying there just so that they don't miss any untoward activity. But Ivan, more of the political discussion. What's your thinking, or what would you have gathered if Mr. Bautisi loses, as the preliminary numbers seem to suggest? It does not mean that the VHP has a majority in the House, does it?
No, the VHP by itself doesn't have a majority. But with
Right.
the ABOP from Ronnie Brunsway,
Correct.
together they have the majority because the
That's
majority here
30,
is
right?
26. And
Mm-hmm.
with ABOP, they will have 27. And
Okay.
also they are talking with MPS who has 4. So
Uh-huh.
by that they will have a majority to rule. But the thing
Uh-huh.
is, in our system, you need 32 seats, 34 votes to elect the president in parliament.
Uh-huh. And
32
what
votes.
is the likelihood that the incumbent, Mr. Bautisi, could swing it around to back him, swing around some of these smaller parties to back him?
Well, it is possible because
Mm-hmm.
in 1996 we saw that happen. That
Mm-hmm.
the several parties had the majority, and still the party of Mr. Bouterse, one way or the other, they succeeded in getting other parties to join them, and because of that, the president couldn't be elected in parliament. And then
Mm-hmm.
they went to what we call the people's how do you call it?
A runoff. You did a presidential election, basically.
Yes. So they had to go back to all the something like a parliament, but it's like
Mm-hmm.
constituted by the regular parliament
Mm-hmm.
and the districts councils and the research councils. And by that, I think it's about 1,000
Mm-hmm.
representatives, and they elected the president. And there you just need a majority of one to win there.
Mm-hmm.
But in parliament, you need a specific majority to elect the president. And
Right.
here they see it as if that is what the government is trying now, at least Mr. Bottas' party, to swing it that way, that if they could succeed in getting at least 2 seats more now, then it will be like we will have another, we call it a VVV,
Mm-hmm.
that gathering to elect the
Mm-hmm.
president there. And
Oh.
it is being suggested that they can bribe people to elect the president there.
Interesting. Interesting. And how is it? I want to just take your mind away from elections. How is it with COVID? I mean, all of those videos and so forth of your people in that stadium that you are at. all of those places, I'm seeing everybody is very open. They're not wearing masks or maintaining any distance from anybody else. But your country seems to still be on top of the COVID disease.
Yes, well, I think in that we have to applaud the government for taking actions very swiftly. As soon as the first case was here reported, I think was the 13th of April or March. Anyway, it was like the first time the governor decided to close the borders, close our airspace because it was an imported case.
Hmm.
See? And until now, we don't have local spreading in Suriname. I
Oh.
think that's one of the main reasons why we don't see it. And at this moment, Suriname is one of three countries where for a lot where we didn't have COVID. It was eliminated to say,
Hmm.
but yesterday, somebody who came illegally from French Guyana, is tested positive, and he came with
Wow.
it. So at this moment, we can say Suriname is free of it. And in general, the public they maintain some social distancing, and because there is no community spread, there's not a real chance that people are affecting each other with it.
Mm. Got you. Thank you, Leonard.
Yes, discipline and maturity, that's what it speaks of. I want to ask you a question now. Your president, the incumbent, Desi, he has a conviction hanging over his head in Europe. Let's assume that he loses this elections, that he does not become president. What does that mean for him?
Well, in general, it means that he is just a regular citizen again, and the law should be implemented. But I don't see it that easy to put Mr. Bolton behind bars before that process is finalized. Because since he was never arrested,
Hmm.
it is a general accepted that during the process, even while he is now in how do you say it, in higher court,
Hmm.
that we should wait that verdict, and after that verdict, we will see how it plays out.
So would you say that you're gonna have a government and a president, or let's say you're gonna have a government before Guyana does?
Could you repeat that again, please?
Are you going to say, Ivan Cairo, that Suriname is going to have a government in place before Guyana does?
I'm not sure what the regulations for your country is, but one thing
I.
I'm sure that we will have finished our counting before Guyana. And
I was
yes,
really
because I
trying. I was
understand
trying
that
to be a little diplomatic about it, but you have said it.
no,
You're going to finish.
our government is in place until the 12th of August. By then, we should have a new president.
And just for
Yeah.
the sake of perspective here, we're looking at how many voters would have gone to the poll on Monday.
We have a voters list of around
330.
383,000,
Mm.
Uh-huh.
and as it is now, around 73% went to the
Oh,
voting booths.
wow. That's high.
Yes, it's high,
Mm.
but mostly in Suriname, we have high turnouts during election.
Mhm. Yeah,
Last
your
year it was
people.
around 78%.
Yeah, your people have always been very engaged in the elections, and this is why you also have some ethnic-based political parties. But there's another
Well,
paradigm.
speaking about ethnic-based political parties,
Uh-huh.
we had a major breakthrough this year because the PHP
Yeah.
traditionally is a party based
Uh-huh.
on the Indian ethnicity, East
Right.
Indians.
Hmm.
But by this time, if we see that almost 100,000 voters choose for the PHP, that is a clear indication that more people who are not from East Indian descent have
Hmm.
voted for that party, and that's a major breakthrough for us in
That's
Suriname.
good. That's good. But you don't have any. You don't allow dead people to vote, right?
Well, even though we don't allow them to vote, every election we have several of them on the voters list. But I think that's
Okay.
just because there's not regular cleanup of the voters list.
And that you have raised something that's very important. There is no perfect voters list in any elections around the world
Any
because,
election.
yeah, and there is no perfect elections. There are always going to be one or two issues. It's a matter of the probability, margin of error that you make an elections call on. But it's good to hear that you might have dead people on the list, but you don't allow them to vote because in
No, we don't
Guyana we
allow them
have.
to vote.
That's good, Leonard.
Ivan, it has been a pleasure, man. But I believe that we're gonna do it before you. So don't get your hopes high up. I do believe in my country, and while we share a lot of things in common, including some of our citizens over there, I must tell you that we're gonna finish counting those votes as early as next week, and we're gonna have a president very shortly in place with the new government. So don't believe we ain't gonna wait till August. I can tell you that for a fact.
All right.
So I want to say hello to all the Suriname people, our Guyanese people across there. We have thousands of them, lots of fishermen there. So thank you very much, dear Mr. Ivan Cairo, our correspondent in
Thank you.
Suriname. And
Thanks,
so,
thanks for
what's the
having
weather
me.
like there? You guys have a good weather?
Today it's very sunny.
Yes.
Very sunny today.
Well, as soon as this thing is lifted, so I'm coming over there. I heard that Paramaribo is a very beautiful place. I went up to
It's a
Nigeria. I
nice
didn't
place.
get a chance to do that. So thank you very much, dear sir, for joining us and giving us that update.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
See you.
So, if you're now joining us, a special edition of the elections and COVID 19 watch here on Kaicho Radio 99.1, 99.5. Want to say hello to our Barbicians and, of course, all along the coast, all our people, and wherever you are. People from Brazil have been joining us, watching what is happening. I want to say hello. I hope that you're having very safe day over there. We know that it's very tense over there today too. So Yog, some interesting things coming out there. Desi might have lost the election, but it's not over with when it comes to him. He's a very smart politician, very canny
Mhm.
politician, and he always finds a way of getting it done. And he knows how to play the game when it comes to elections. I'm not sure whether it's over with for him. He's coming up against, I think, one is former Justice Minister too, Mr. Santoki.
Correct.
And so Santoki ain't no walk in the park either. He has been around for a little while. Good campaigner. So let us see what happens. This elections here in Suriname might very well throw up some changes in that country, that neighboring country, and we have to pay very close attention. And Ivan seems very convinced that they're going to get it over with and done pretty quickly. Let's see. That country has very close relationship to the Netherlands, and Netherlands has always been paying very close eye on what happens there too. And I think they share some kind of authorities there between the justice and so on. So it's a different
Hmm.
thing. The minute that you step across the quarantine into Suriname, it's as if you're a different world to
Well,
see. Yeah.
at least they don't have their garbage spewing all over the place. It's a clean place.
Yes.
And Leonard, one of the things that one of the best things I've heard there is that like Guyana, the tide is turning on racism. And I don't mean racism in, well, sorry, I used the wrong word. The tide is turning on race voting.
Uh-huh.
That's the best word. The tide is turning on race voting. So that we would have found that in Guyana, as everybody knows, the PPP cannot win an election without crossover votes. No AFC cannot win an election without crossover votes from all the various races. And over there too, what he said is a phenomenal figure he's calling that the VHP would have advanced only because of the crossover votes from all the other denominations within the country, and that's an interesting evolution
Mhm.
of our countries respectively.
And I think so too. It means that people are thinking differently, and
Hmm.
if there's a tide in the entire Caribbean, this region in itself, there seems to be less tolerance for government. You look at Trinidad. Trinidad has always been a country that I've paid very close attention from the Panday. Then you see that lady Kamala. You see Keith Rowley. There's a whole different breed. A very good, they're very good public speaking persons that you would have seen coming out and given their take, and they've taken those countries, whether it's a difficult time for Trinidad or not. What they're doing is trying to pull the rabbit out of the hat when it comes
Hmm.
to working with the resources that they have to rescue the country. And Trinidad is really in a state right now. We could probably have some discussions at another time on that. But what the point is, right across the region, what you see happen is the emergence of some new leaders. We would have spoken, you and I, about our young leaders that we have coming up again from the different parties, outspoken persons, intelligent persons who are able to flesh it out, and they're not scared, Yoke. They're not scared to say what is on their mind, and they're saying it very well. So I think
And
yes.
yeah, and Leonard, when you look at Suriname and the way their economics so much differ from ours, look at how they have handled COVID. I mean, Ivor was full of praise of how the last government handled COVID, right? It was not a political ploy or a political decision or anything to do with the elections. They handled COVID in a professional way. I am aware that persons from the different political, the separate parties would have played their own roles in that effort. And the other thing that I want to quickly mention here, Leonard, if you look, I would encourage everyone to take a look at how Germany has handled COVID-19 in terms of economic assistance to business people and to citizens in the country. You see, Leonard, sometimes when we look at what the government of Guyana is not doing, we had Joel on our program. We also had Mr. Taran Camarades on our program, and we discussed economics, right? But there is an economic a thought to say as follows. Let us say this country gives $1,000 each to 700,000 people, right? What the people will do with the money? The people are going to spend the money. In other words, you're creating a circulation. Money will just circulate. Nobody will take it and send it overseas. Even if you put it in a bank account, the bank account will then invest it. It's your bank doesn't just store the money in a vault, it invests the money, it puts it in use. And that's how you get interest, right? So, there needs to be, and this is why you and I have been consistently calling that the COVID task force needs to involve people from the different segments of the Guyanese society. People who can take money, people. If you recall, yesterday when you asked Nandalab, what's the first thing his government would do? Whether they would look at oil, whether I forget what was the key element of, but you basically asked what's the first thing they would do, and what was his first thing?
The
They
COVID
are going
issue.
to, yeah, he said the first thing they have to do is to kickstart the economy. The first thing you have to do is look after the people of the country. Make sure that the people can get food to eat. Make sure that, but we are in a current situation of stagnancy.
Well, we could talk about that all the time. And of course, if you're now joining us, elections COVID 19 watch, June the 16th has been touted as a date when you get all of the election processes over, and so we could have a declaration by then. It's only been touted. There's not a definitive decision taken by the Guyana Elections Commission on that. In fact, they have not even taken any decision when it comes to lengthening this process. We know that 25 days is going to be over within 2 days or so, and so there's a decision to be taken as to whether to put more compensations, whether they put the number of days. They have to do something, but they have not officially said that. So there has not even been a meeting, I understand, called to have a discussion on that. Are you hearing anything today, Yog, with regards to any meetings being called?
Yes, my understanding is that they are going to have a meeting to look at the idea that they floated with the June 16th. There is another perspective that we need to keep in mind. If you have 500 odd boxes that remains, let's say 600 odd boxes to be counted. If you have that amount of boxes to go, you have 12 workstations. So let me say you have 600 boxes Let me just throw it up here. 600 boxes divided by 12 workstations. You know, you're looking at 50 boxes per workstation. You got to look at the amount of days now, right? If they could have done almost, I think 92 boxes yesterday. If they could have done 92 boxes yesterday, look at that. It can be achieved within a week's time. So yes, in a week's time, we can have the recount completed. And then in a week's time, you're looking at around June the 6th. By next week, Saturday, it's 6th of June, which means GCOM is going to cater for themselves approximately 10 days for the CEO to make his report. GCOM will then have to decide per the order what happens then and make a decision. So the die is cast. What's interesting in what we are saying here now, this is the period you and I referred to last week when we said that no turning back. Here you're entering into this period where there is no turning back. The numbers are coming out. The reality is in everyone's face. If you have looked, Leonard, at all the SORs, you will see them match the exact SOPs as close as possible, -3, -4, and tonight we're going to look at the numbers. But the fact is that there has been a very close match with SOPs that some of our political leaders would have said are of no value. They said they were engineered, they were created, and so forth and so on. So the ones discarded SOPs have found to be matching the SORs, which means that Stabroek News and Kaituur News and all of you media out there did not lie. It proves that your SOPs were accurate, an accurate capture of what happened. Now, everybody's looking at recount. I want to just bring this to your attention, sir. However, something interesting came up in our last 2 nights discussion. The recount is basically a recount of the exact same ballots that were counted in the first place. There's no new ballot, no new election took place. Is a recount of the exact same ballots of March 2nd. And those exact same ballots of March 2nd, one set of politicians were happy to be sworn in with. None of their agents told them of any tomfoolery. None of their agents claimed dead people voted. None of the agents claimed anything untoward on these elections up to March 13, 14, 15, 20, end of April. When the recount started, first week of the recount, nothing like this was said. Everybody was happy to use those same ballots of March 2nd. Now you're recounting the exact same ballots. But you're hearing persons, our leaders are saying, some of our leaders would be saying, we don't want this because so and so and so. Last thing I'll say, I know I'm going a little long-winded here. Last thing I'll say here, Leonard, and I see you shaking your head, I'm going long-winded.
No, I didn't mean that. I mean, go on.
Last thing I'll say here, Leonard. Yesterday, Mr. Norton was on radio and TV saying that 90,000 of these ballots are in question. 90,000. As of yesterday, Leonard, they only counted, as Mr. Anil Nandlal said, they only counted 200,000 ballots. So if 90,000 of 200,000 is now questioned, how many people really voted at these last elections? So it throws a lot of spin, and this is better than Shane Warne's spin that is happening for the last week or two. The aim here, obviously, is to castigate GCOM. Now, here is the question. Will GCOM admit on June 16 that it ran a shoddy elections and elections totally unworthy of a Republic of Guyana? Or will it say, we have run an election, here is the results? That is left to be seen.
Well, I would want to ask you, before we head to the phone line, I want to ask you this because this is going to be a question that's going to be coming up, and the attention is going to be very shortly, within a matter of days, again thrown on Claudette Singh, Justice retired Claudette Singh, and who's the chairperson of the Guyana Elections Commission. Do you believe that she's going to she's going to do her job.
You and I think we share the same view where this is concerned. I have confidence that Justice Claudia Singh is taking her time. She seems to be reluctant dealing with issues up front, but she ultimately makes the right decision, as was seen when she called for this recount. She stood her ground and insisted, I gave my word for a recount, I'm going to have a recount. What bothers me is that so far, 50% of the votes are done and over with. She's clearly seen that those numbers are matching the SOPs. She can still make a call and stop the wasting, the bleeding of monies that this country need to kickstart its own economy. But I do believe that now the die is cast and they're now calling a date of June 16th, that she will, all hopes are on that she will do the right thing and make the right declaration.
Well, several regions are to be completed today, and we are going to wait until this evening to probably give you a quick update as to what is happening. The recount continues. GCOM is set to meet to discuss the lengthening the number of days, maybe adding more workstations. We know based on what Yog is saying there, our projections, we have a little more than a week to go based on what we're seeing here in terms of the completion of the recount. And Yog, before we go to the phone line, let's quickly just go into to what is happening. June the 16th. June the 16th is what they are looking at to have this process over with and done and the declaration made. That's a deadline. The CARICOM is at the moment discussing the reopening. Under what conditions are they going to open regional travel again in the CARICOM area? We also should tell you that two regions, Region 9 and 7, Region 9 is the one that borders with Brazil. Region 7 is a gold-rich area, Baltica, and going backwards away across the Essequibo River. And they're saying that they are very unwilling to end mining because of what it means to the economy of those communities and the communities in those areas. And of course, there's that issue that's coming up with regards to a lockdown as to whether the authorities has been rumored whether they are going to move to have the entire place locked down, or whether we just simply needs better policing. As of now, we could safely say that, say for a few areas, maybe Caribbean and so on, the majority of Guyana is going about its business as usual. I was passing by a night spot on the East Bank last night, and I'm going to watch again tonight. And people were parked around the corner, but you could see that the doors were open, and they were doing the thing very quietly there. So people are going about their business. People are still not wearing the mask, and so Yog very worried sometimes. People, when you listen to what Ivan Cairo would have said a short while ago, what is happening at our next door neighbor with very little cases. They have an imported case that they're looking at, but Suriname has taken steps, and they are very mature, very disciplined about that. We have to pay attention and take the lessons that is coming out from Suriname and of course the neighboring Trinidad as well. So I think there's a call on line. Let's go straight to the calls. Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay, I'm glad. I was just running through my Facebook, and I don't know if you know about it. At least you know about it because you mentioned about it. That Mr. Jack get arrest for crime-cides and terrorists.
No, absolutely not. I think that would be fake. I think we would have heard about it.
This coming up, get a guy on Facebook. He criticized Mr. Jackie. He criticized Bruce Golding. Bruce Golding have no dignity, he have no nothing at all, and he can't run and come to tell Ghana what to run and all the thing. Now I go back on the Facebook, I see say Mr. Jackie get arrested for cyber crime and terrorism. So I want to know who's this guy. They got to get this guy and lock you up or something.
Lots of news on Facebook, a lot of fake news too, as Donald Trump would say.
Well, that's true. Because, I mean, it got me worried. I didn't hear nothing on the news about that. And I just running through the Facebook. I see he come up saying that Mr. Jagdo get arrested. He get arrested and he's they move me to the States. So how the airport open for move to the States and the airport can open for bringing Carter Center?
Fake news. It's fake news.
Yeah.
So I'd like to say something.
Yes, sir.
Looking at the Madam Chair, I might be right, but it's just my opinion. Yeah, I think that GCOM is involved themselves too much of lying down in bed with one political party. That's what I could say. Because I can understand if GCOM having the what is call it, the thing from the election. Help me out, man. What is
The SOPs?
SOP? Yeah. I'm 60 years of age and I go through election. And I know it didn't happen with Joe Singh, it happened with all the chairman. When the other parties asked for the SOP, it was presented to them. Why GCOM can't present it their own today? Why they can't do it? And this is why fault the Madam Chairman with. This is why fault she with. That's what people say that she's laying down in bed with Apno. Because I think, listen to me, I was in the military. I was a sergeant of a company. Yeah? And if I'm in charge, I'm in charge. I can't allow other people coming from other company tell me how to run my company. Do you understand me? I'm in charge and I have to do the right thing. Get the SOP and stop this nonsense. You know, Suriname will come and get the government before we. I'm telling you, despite they didn't really got no hiccups, but they just count in the box or whatever. They didn't get the government before, and their president is swearing till August. You might swearing till December. Because they don't see what is going to happen coming down to Region 4, it's going to be a problem. Yesterday, Mr. Norton, he went talking to the media. For one side, I like how the media handle it. You can't take it. He start calling them all kind of name. He start thinking, I don't know, Mr. Gildarie, he's a senior journalist, but it seems to me like Christopher Jones and this other man, they're more senior than Mr. Gildarie. Because they're saying these media need to go and do research and go on just because of the media handle Norton.
All right.
No, that's one more thing.
Yes,
I want to know they're talking about this lady that made this a source about racial context, and some girl is make this thing, and Mr. Jackie and even Ali and Mr. Phillips call the girl and tell the girl she shouldn't mention their name or some sort of matter. What about Val Lawrence to get up and say anybody looking like Jackie can't get work like she can't get work in she party? What about those racial remarks? They use not a racial remark, but wow. What about nobody say nothing? That was a big talking. It's a big talking. They causing problem.
Okay.
They causing problem in this country. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Zir. And let me tell you, the listener would have raised a very important point there, Yog. And let me address that right away. GCOM cannot sit in bed with any political party. That's not its mandate. Its mandate is to run elections. Full stop to that. The second thing is, do I call you senior, Yog? I'm not sure. Any comments on the caller?
Yes, I would like to say I endorse the view that any post you find, viewers and listeners, I want to appeal to you, and I'm sure Kaitunians will join me in this appeal. Any of those nuisance you find on Facebook, posting fake news, unfriend them. You don't need people like that in your life. Unfriend them, move on with your decency. Anybody that posts any racist comment, I think my recommendation, unfriend them, leave them to their own. They must be the loneliest people in the world. The more we share their stuff, the more popular we are making them. Don't share it. Report them to Facebook, report them to the ERC, and unfriend them. Let them be gone. Anybody that posts any disparaging comments about anybody. And Leonard, to the issue of racism, I don't know if you know this, but I think Mr. Schumann would have made some allegations about a racist slur being cast upon one of his persons in the ACCC. And I think we need to investigate And if that is so, I'm quite surprised that the person who they have come out plainly and say who it was that made the slur, that person should be banned from the process immediately.
Absolutely, and I think we get him. My grandmother would say, "You get him besides yourself." I think we get him besides yourself now. Too much of people, they believe. I'm not sure. Social media is it's wide open. Anything can happen, and you have a right to your opinions and so on. When it start castigating a race like let's burn down the bridge with the Bok people, and let me say it, I'll say it. I saw that and I said, "What? What are we doing?" I mean, who is the enemy here, Yog? Is it that we're fighting each other now and we not? We should be fighting the oil company, according to the front page of this, where billions of dollars of our money. Oil supposed to make us rich. We look at the sultans and the sheikhs in the Middle East and see the way that they live and the way that we could live. But no, we're fighting with elections 2020. And we allowing a few persons, I'm not sure how to describe them, to tell us what to do when we should be talking about our oil and our resources. Yog, there's another call.
Sure.
Yes, caller, you on the air. Go ahead. Good afternoon. Caller, good afternoon. You on the air. I think we would have lost that even now. Joining us 226-745. Caller, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Yog. Leonard,
Yes, sir.
I am a guy, I think I did well with a grade 1 in English, right? But I don't really normally find myself at a loss for adjectives, right? And when I follow up this election since this election and the results start to come out, and when I see these guys go out in front of the media there, and then guys gonna speak, this guy is just disgracing himself, man. I'm ashamed. I'm telling you, I'm totally ashamed. What these guys going out there and how they're trying, I don't know, I cannot say what they're trying to do there, but I'm just ashamed and disgraced at the way and the kind of things they talk, and I expect people to actually listen to them. Yeah, for instance, Basil Williams, Aubrey Norton. Oh my God, I don't know what really these guys think are in Guyanese head to know actually what's happening or what they're saying. Something is totally 360 different. Anyway, Mr. Yu, I beg to differ on your statement or your comments and your expectation about the chairwoman for GCOM. Because I'm going to ask you today, can you give me one instance or two instances from the election to now, anything that could indicate to us Guyanese that the chairwoman has acted independently or she actually portrayed GCOM to work in an independent manner in any of her decisions or any of her doings since this election? Because I cannot expect her to do the right thing, and based upon what she's doing, I cannot pinpoint at none time she did anything to suggest GCOM is independent, try to uphold the law, try to get this recount done in a short possible time. I cannot see nothing, so I don't know if Mr. Yo can pinpoint any of that for me, but that's for when I go off. My final point here is, while all of this going on here at the ACCC there, this diversion or this attracting of the attention there, we have big contract, billions of dollars. So I don't want people to know and Guyanese to be aware. We have $2 billion, approximately $2 billion will be spent at the Ocean View there, at the hotel there. We have close to another $1 billion in one of the interior for another hospital. And I am seeing this here as a diversion from money being siphoned off. So I want people to pay attention to all these. I don't think all these big contracts and big spending is supposed to go on. Any big spending here now, it's supposed to be towards the relief for Guyanese, for COVID-19. Not for all of these things, and all these things will have to be investigated. So let Guyanese don't get sidetracked with what happened here. We still have, this is just the icing on the cake. We have the whole cake to deal with. What's happening with Guyana money? So I go back to Mr. Yog, let he tell me, what did he saw from this woman from March 2nd to now that suggests if she is acting independently? Because I cannot pinpoint none. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Jay Caller. Yog, he asked for you.
Yes, and I will certainly outline why I believe the chairman will ultimately make the right decision. There are two reasons. One, let me use an analogy, Leonard. If you recall Sir James, Sir James released some important information. How many Guyanese knew that it was the Caribbean leaders that actually leaned on Desmond Hoyt to ease the ban on flour? We thought that was of their own doing, of Desmond Hoyt and his party's own doing. But Sir James, so my point in using that example, Leonard, is caller, there are a couple of things. One is local, and of course the other is this question of the world looking on and personal sanctions hanging over anyone's head. So whether it's the threat of sanctions that will cause things to happen in the right way or not, it will happen. However, here is what I see that gives me a belief that she will do the right thing. Look, Mr. Lowenfield presented a report to the commission. Madam Claudette Singh could have taken that report and could have declared the election based on Mingo's declaration, but she did not. She did not. She put it aside, she put it in abeyance, and she has given her word to Madam Roxanne George that she will undertake a recount, and she has done that. So, I mean, I'll just stop there. Those are just two examples, I believe, that is a clear example that she wants to do the right thing. And I'll share one little third one without going into the details. Leonard, we have all, I too, I've criticized her hands-off approach on those fateful days when Mingo was making the declaration that she was in a room. In hindsight, Leonard, had she been part of the fracas, she would have been accused of taking a side. She kept herself away from it, and she made the decision of going with the recount. She made the decision of having this order gazetted. She made the decision of insisting CARICOM must come here before she starts the recount. So those are just some. I'll stop at this stage.
And thank you very much, and some very pertinent points. And that is indeed true. I was told that she was the one that insisted. There was an order. There was a correspondence from the Chief Elections Officer, Keith Lowenfield, to the Madam Chair, which says that these are the declarations for all the regions. And so she could have acted on that. She says instead, there's going to be a recount. Very good point. Yoga, we head to the phone lines. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air, Kaito Radio. Go ahead. Yes, good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Firstly, I'd like to say people being using the word, believe chairman will do the right thing or the wrong thing or whatever. My point is that I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, there's not a hiccup coming, it's still coming. Secondly, the chairman doesn't have to make a right decision or a wrong decision. She has to make a decision based upon the law. And a lot of times in the law, that's not necessarily right. I said that the president says he's going to accept what the GCON chairman says. Let's wait to hear what she says. As it relates to COVID-19, I believe that somebody, somewhere, made a secret notion to the people of Guyana that everything is okay because everybody's operating like everything is normal. We're talking about the 55% of boxes that have counted, and the chairman should make a point. When it comes to COVID-19, we have only tested 1,500 people out of 750,000 people. How can we make a decision to reopen when we've only made 1,500 tests? That's one. Secondly, I believe, I've always had the strong belief, and Mr. Yog may disagree because he's a businessman. Business people in Guyana and around the world do business at the cheapest expense for themselves, meaning they do it the cheapest way to make the biggest profit. I believe every company in Guyana and anybody coming in Guyana, including the oil company, should know that Guyana, not the PPP, made a commitment to the rest of the world that we will be a place to help the environment, and we have dedicated our forests and so on and so forth. So whether it's Exxon or a sawmill down Regent Street decides to open, they have to do things that are environmentally friendly. And that gas going in the air is dead wrong. We buy gas in Guyana. It could have come here. The company could have do it. They could have made a deal with the government and let it come in here. We could have sold to our sisters and brothers in the Caribbean. Even at this time, that what went up in the air could have been distributed to every family. Say, get 2 bottles free of gas. So at the end of the day, anybody doing business in Guyana have to remember that we made a commitment to the world. So if you're coming here, you have to do green business, meaning best practices to save the environment. I listen to your comments off here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Yog, let me say something before I ask you to respond here. This elections 2020, March the 2nd, has shown up something that is really good for my heart. The people are speaking, and I like that. I really like that. And they're coming from all over, not only Guyana, but all over, and they're standing up and they're talking. Say, this is wrong, this is right. Whichever divider you are, bring them on. Let us hear them. Over to you, Yog.
Yeah, caller has made some very good points. I would, I would want to gently disagree, but it's a matter of verbiage. When we use the word, Madam Chairman, to make a right decision, she can make a wrong decision. The law only requires that she makes a decision. In my view, the right decision is to use the tabulations of the recount and make an educated decision, a declaration based on the recount. The wrong decision will be to say that the recount doesn't matter, let's go back to Mingo's declaration. So that would be why I would have probably used those words, right and wrong decision. The law requires she makes a decision. The law doesn't, he's right, doesn't say right or wrong decision. With regards to the businesses, I totally agree with you, caller. Whether you look at it from a religious, business, whatever perspective, the environment must be primary concern for everyone. It's all, this earth is all that our children will inherit, and if we destroy it, we have nothing to give them. We are draining out the oil resources. So obviously there won't be oil for our great-great-great-grandchildren way down in the future. What are they going to do for economic activities because we're using it out? But in using it up, we should not destroy everything else. So that is quite correct perspective. However, Leonard, what needs to happen? Kaiju News has been quite proficient on this, and one day we need to bring Kiana in room 592 to share some more information. What has been happening, sir, ladies and gentlemen, is that the government has been most dunce, for the lack of a better word, most reluctant to put rules, laws, procedures into place to ensure that none of these things happen. You have people heading the Environmental Association. You have to, and when you ask them questions, look at Mr. Bino at the Suriname's interview a couple months ago, Leonard. Everything that was asked of the gentleman, I have nothing against the gentleman, but everything that was asked to him about the environment, about protocols, he deflected and said the minister has to answer. The minister has to answer. It comes down back to the politicians getting involved in things they have no expertise and no right to be involved. They need to let the people the qualified people do what they're qualified to do.
Separation of powers. I think there's a caller in line. Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you, sir. Don't you think that good afternoon again.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't you think that chairperson will have to look at those dead people and those books that missing before she look at the SOP and the SOR? I'm waiting for a response. I'm going to hang up my phone and wait for a response.
Thank you very much, sir. Yog?
First of all, dead people can't write. The dead can't write. It's an impossibility for the dead to write. If you were saying that one of those ticks match a dead person, there are many questions has to be asked. Did the officer in the room tick off the wrong name? In other words, is it before or after that line? There is a blank space. It could be a human error. 2, it means everybody in the room, but before I say number 2, Leonard, if a dead person, so-called dead, voted, who knows? Does Mr. Norton know who they vote for? Do you or anybody know whether they voted PPP, PNC, ANOG, or anything else? Nobody knows who they vote for. So the Madam Chairman could say, well, I don't know who they vote for if they voted, and I have to make a declaration. You see, if there is an untoward, if a wrong person voted for another person, you don't know who they vote for. So whoever you make a call or a decision is not a knowledge of making a decision against PPP or APNO. Do you get a point, Leonard?
Yes, very, very clear. But let me ask you a
Good.
question.
Go on. Go on.
What about if there are quite a number of those claims that comes up? Could it throw the entire elections into question as to at what point in time do you say it throws the entire election into question?
It doesn't. Here is what happens. GCOM follows the laws, employs. Let me just use. Let me use your name. GCOM employs Leonard Gildarie to be the return or to be a polling officer, to be an officer. Let me just say an officer within the polling station. Now, Leonard Gildarie swears to uphold his duties, and he probably picked up a scripture in swearing. Regardless how, he took an oath. You took an oath to uphold your duty. In addition, PPP has an observer, PNC has an observer, APNO AFC has an observer, ANOG has, everybody has an observer in that room. So if Mr. Jumbi, oh my, somebody named that. But if a ghost, if a ghost comes in and voted Leonard, it means you, sir, you, the GCOM officer, accepted that vote. If Madam Chairman says that vote must take into consideration, it means Madam Chair slap you in the face and say, I have discarded you, right? Leonard Gildarie, because you didn't perform your duty. But Leonard, Madam Chair did not take immediate disciplinary action against Mingo for an obvious, very clear fraud. Madam Chair did not take any action against Lowenfield for actively supervising a clear fraud, but she can take action against Leonard Gildarie because somebody accidentally ticked Kevin Smith instead of Joshua Van Slitman.
There's a question here, Yog. The report submitted by Lowenfield to the chairman. Was it ever discussed or anything? I understand that it wasn't discussed, but do you know?
No, the report would, I'm trying to rack my brains to Mr. Alexander. I believe we had asked Mr. Alexander something like this. And I think that Mr. Lowenfield's report was never formally discussed, just never formally tabled for discussion at a GCOM meeting. Had it come up for a meeting, it means commissioners would have voted, and it means the chairman would have had her casting vote, because you know how the three would have voted on either side. As long as the chairman had a casting vote, that would have been record. It would have had to force a declaration had it gone to the commission.
Yes, that is indeed my information too, that when the chairman got it, the chairperson, it never engaged the commission proper. In fact, at that point in time when she received it, there was those court cases, and the chairperson did an affidavit and says, look, I am going to go for a recount. I back a recount, and we're going to move to have a recount. And so there's a caller online. We go straight to the call. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. I think we would have lost that call. But Yoga, that is indeed my information when it comes
and
to
let me confirm, I just got confirmation that the CEO report never came to the level of the commission for consideration.
Right. So, yes, we go to the call. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Good afternoon. I will call back again. Just please find out if maybe there's something circulating that said we don't have to worry about locking down anymore. But to make a point, Mr. Lowenfield is the person that hands the declaration to the chairman and the board and the commissioners. They do not get the declaration by themselves. So whatever Mr. Lowenfield decides, if he decides after all of this, that I'm asking Mr. Yogi, if he decides after all of this that he's sticking and that's what he's handing, is the original declaration that he handed over already, what could the chair and the board do, and the commissioners do, if anything, or where does it leave us? Just a question. I'm not saying he's going to do this, just ask it.
Very good question, and thank you for that. Yog?
Discuss by the time, let me just pull up the order. 1 second, I'll just get there.
Well, what
But
I
in
do, yes,
yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go
I
ahead.
think for the little information that I have, what I was told is that when the GCOM chief elections officer make that declaration in his report and gives it to the commission has to deliberate, prepare a document which goes to the chancellor. It has
Okay,
to be
so
discussed. That is what I was told.
right. So paragraph 14 of the order states that after receiving a report of the matrices, this is in referring to
The 10
the
regions.
certificate of tabulations,
Mhm.
GCOM will then decide whether the CEO should use the data compiled, those same certificates, as the basis of submitting a report. So to answer your question, sir, from one aspect, the CEO has to abide with GCOM's instruction to prepare a report using the certificate of tabulations. They call it matrices in the order, to use the matrices to prepare a report for the commission's deliberation. The question that you recall, Leonard, we asked Mr. Nandla last night. Supposing GCOM does not so order the CEO, is there any way that GCOM could deflect or defer back to Mingo's declarations? And Mr. Nandla's opinion was that since there is that contempt proceedings facing GCOM over Mingo's second purported declaration, there is no way that they can go back to that because it is not something that has been released by the courts having not completed the contempt hearing.
And that's pretty interesting. Let's see what happens. The legality of that order and everything would have been discussed. I think there's a caller online. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're there. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're there.
Hi, good afternoon,
Good
gentlemen.
afternoon.
Once again, interesting topic. First of all, I believe for them to go back and use Mingo tabulation would be a waste of time with all what we're doing right now. Because the whole idea is because of Mingo declaration that we have a recount. So I think the final and the result, this is the recount, is what they're going to use. The numbers from this recount is what they, well, not they're going to use, they should use to make the final declaration. Because there's no, if you're gonna do all of this and then use what Mingo do, instead of you call it off right now and just do what he said and done. Another thing we're talking about this thing with the curfew and essential care service.
Yes.
We have to realize that the government don't have money. GRA right now is the only source that is giving them money, and the Gold Bush. So they are not going to close down that. They are not going to see that as a non-essential. So what they have their own order said, non-essential care businesses like hardware store.
Mm-hmm.
But it come back to the big question, Gildarie, almost a month or change now, and we haven't heard where the government is giving anybody anything. So how are we expecting average guy to stay home for 2 months or 2 weeks without working? Where are they going to get food? Who's going to give them food? I don't think people coming for the road because they just want to come. I think they're coming because they don't have a choice. They need to do something. So we got to wait and see what's going to happen. But I don't think they're going to lock. If you want to lock down the whole country, they're not going to lock. What are you going to do with GRA? They have to get money because the government don't have money. So they have to keep things like GRA and the Gold Bush going.
Mm-hmm.
All right, gentlemen. Looking forward. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Well, obviously, and I think, Yoga, I want to agree with you, and the caller has made some good points here. How do you close these little areas? But then how do you tell the people out there that you're telling me to close my business, but there's a back door opening? Because, look, whether you like it or not, people are going to be traveling from Bartica, coming down from Bartica to Georgetown. Now, unless you really put a stop on, unless there's some way of stopping people, checking them, there's a checkpoint before you go on the boat and say that you're negative or so, that very little you could do. But the thing is, people are going to come out from the Gold Bush, and they're going to come out and go to Bartica, and they're going to shop, and they're going to go back. And it was told very clearly that they're going to continue to allow them to go. So there's very little that you could really control And so that is the big fear that we have with regards to using Mingo's figures. I think that is not something we could even contemplate now. While some people might have expressed it, the mere fact that you have a recount, the recount that is the contemplation is that you use the results of that, and that's my thinking. Yog.
Yeah, there's another very interesting point that I want to share with everyone. Let us just say, for whatever reason, that somebody wants to refer back to Mingo's declarations. Here is why it might well be an impossibility. The recount has shown that the Mingo's figures were blatantly flawed. The recount has shown, the physical count of the ballots has shown and has proved that Mingo's figures were fictitious. So how can you go back to fictitious figure? It's like you're admitting the elections were wrong, but we will go to an even worse situation and make a declaration. So it's the noose is tightening. That's all I'll say.
And there's so many things that's very wrong with that. So that's not a contemplation at the moment. What we're looking at here is the recount and those figures. And you're right, the recount is conforming what those statement of polls, the old ones, if you want to call it that, would be showing. So there's a caller online. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
The issue about closing the gold bush or closing GRA makes no sense. We just praised Suriname. We just praised Trinidad. What they did is lockdown all over. That's how you contain it. We're not saying that we can survive, because we have been surviving for the last 2 months without any support. If you do it for 2 weeks and do massive testing, then we can say something. And somebody coming out of the bush, they have a certificate to prove to the boat captain and to the perical landing that they're negative, they come through. Otherwise, that it makes no sense. And when it comes to declarations, Mr. Mingo's numbers, fake or real, is still up there on GCOM's board. The point is not whether the chairman will give a declaration. I believe what will happen based upon all the purported anomalies is that the choice could be there of saying the elections are void and we have to go back again. Thank you very much.
Interesting point, Yog. Very interesting point. And you would have raised the issue of those figures still being up on GCOM's website. I would like to hear from you on that.
Well, remember, Mr. Alexander himself said that he would like legal directions on what to do with those declarations. I think those numbers there form a record of what would have been transpired and the outcome of the process as at that date. They're there as a record keeping, nothing else. The fact is, it is felt, and over the last couple of nights we have deferred to a lot of experts in the different areas. It is felt that because Mingo's figures would have been disproved, they can no longer hold up. So yes, we're all, it boggles the mind why the Region 4 declaration particularly is still there, but let's see what happens over the next week.
So many stories, so many narratives. My head hurting, Yog. There's another call. There's another caller online. There's no. Yes, I think we lost that. Yog. So let's go back very quickly. I think after, with regards to the stranded Guyanese, they must be quarantined for 2 weeks when they come back. Those are the 300 persons who are willing to come back, and the government is saying, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said you have to apply online. And of course, when you come back here, you either stay in their facilities or you stay in a hotel, pay your own bill, and you're going to be controlled from there. So those are the options, and you must be quarantined when you come back. So it's not that you're coming back and be returned to the general population. There's a caller online. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, good afternoon, sir. I'm a regular listener of your program here, and it is very interesting. It is very good. You keep up the good works. It is the only station that gives you fear something in this country. Cairo News, very fear, and keep the good. People may talk things about you. See, when you speak the truth, you're making enemy with people. You understand? That's why, with people who don't want the truth. Now, this election thing, what's going on here, everything was well planned. by GCOM and a certain party. Amen. And I like that, people, the American, look how long we have independence. We have independence for 54 years. And it's the same back and forth, where we are. Look, this Caribbean country, how they develop. Look, Guyana, with all these resources. I think that at the end of this recount, if things should go wrong, because I don't trust GCOM. I believe that after this election finished, GCOM should be scrapped and get the foreigners, people from overseas, different countries, to come and make up a body to run this election in this country. I believe that what's going to happen is they're going to make something at the end of this recount, something they're going to try to do. But let me tell you, I would like the American and the British should come and police in this country, take over this country and do what they have to do the counting, replace who won the election, and let me go forward. That's the only thing that have did it in a lot of countries. They have to come and take this country. They have to take this country. We must have a referendum in this country, because these people, I can't imagine that people at this time, 2020, you still have people who are mad in politics. Now, the game is that if you win, you go in. If you lose, you can come out. And that's the game. And people are not civilized. Those people are not civilized. I see them talking on this television about this thing and election fraud, that the recount that's going on. And now, this recount is what? It's recounting vote, not poll book. And all these you're going through lists and all this nonsense is a recount of the ballot being cast. What you do on election night, that you do now. Recount the ballot you recount. So that's my comment, sir. Thank you. I'm waiting for your reply.
Thank you very much for that, Yog. I'm not... You go ahead, Yog.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I got distracted for a moment, Leonard. So would you mind, please?
Well, look, caller, I agree with everything that what you would have said there. The people of Guyana, they are paying attention. They want things to go in a particular way. Not only, I'm just looking here while you were talking there, the president has been addressing the high-level event for financing of the development with regards to the coronavirus, and this morning he would have done that. So they're talking about how do you deal with issues of coronavirus. They're even talking about reopening the airport. There's a plan that has been given by the Guyana Civil Aviation Authority to the COVID-19 task force, and they are looking at the phased reopening of the airports, and I'm really, really amazed here, Yog. So I understand what that caller is saying. I'm really, really amazed that we're even talking about the reopening of the airports and the number keeps climbing. I can't seem to fix the two in any kind of pattern and says that we're thinking right when it comes to running this country. But I agree with the caller there. There's another caller in the air. In the meantime, Yog, tonight I think you're going to have some 3 interesting guests on room 592. What are we doing? What do we expect to do? Couple mathematicians?
Well, what we are going to do is we have asked 3 gentlemen who are part of the recount, one of them being one of the local observers, to join us to discuss how the numbers are shaping up. So, remember one of our earlier callers mentioned about the anomalies and about the alleged dead people voting and so forth. So if we were to take the anomalies, if we were to take all those allegations of so much ticks and so much dead people and all of that, what does it mean to the final result? So we are going to start drawing those conclusions, hoping everyone can join us to look at how the numbers are playing out. It's an important exercise because we cannot now wait until any of the political parties make a call. Remember the last time the PPPC made a call to say they are so far, they have such a big lead that an unassailable lead, I think was the term they used. And they threw everything into a tailspin because the rest, whatever happened. So now we want to keep the population, keep everybody updated how the numbers are working out, what the number of ballots completed, what the number of boxes completed, who's getting how much, and what does it mean when we say these anomalies, and what does it mean to the final tally.
Thank you very much, Yoga. We have people as far as Connecticut in the U.S. There's a caller on air. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, sir, to you, Mr. Yog Mahadeo.
Yes, sir.
I'm a big person. I'm 64 years of age. But what's going on in our country is very, very heartbreaking to know. For so much months now, 3 months now, done in for this election, it's heartbreaking, and I work in, but I cannot get to work every day, and I have a family to maintain, and it's very hard on us, very, very hard on us, and I think GCOM should really try to speed up this process of this election. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. It's 3.5 months, Yoke. 3.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think when I say 3.5 months, they're looking at June the 16th. So I'm going to put it June the 16th as a cutoff date where we get this over with and done. And there is a declaration. I'm hoping that we reach that stage. So I'm saying 3.5 months this process take to being completed. And so it's not a good thing.
Leonard,
yes.
Leonard, while we can all talk about the 3.5 months, the call is actually right, very right. And the amount of monies that has been wasted to do exactly what we knew what was the truth immediately after the elections. All of this money and all of that, but it provides a serious lesson that this country needs to take some things in perspective. One is we cannot continue to allow politicians to dominate our lives. We, the people, have to take control of our lives, take control of our country. Regardless of what race or religion or whatever we belong to, that's fine. We respect every belief, but we have to ensure this winner-take-all politics comes to an end. We have to ensure that we change the political landscape. We have to ensure that we hold our political leaders responsible. And Leonard, one other thing has come out over the past 3 months. We are seeing many of these people for who they really are. We are seeing who is calling out whom. As soon as you make a report about something, they go after your family. They start to disparage your name rather than deal with your message. So Guyanese is also getting a personality lesson over these 3 months. There are all of these people who are, use a colloquial term, bigging up themselves on social media and making all kinds of posts and disparaging posts, racist posts and all of that. They are displaying themselves. And we must keep a note and ensure that we don't allow these people to ever get into a position where they can destroy this country.
I saw a video of a politician that who purportedly made some promises to the people, and then he went back into the neighborhood. And people said, "Come again." This is after he wants them to vote for him again.
Correct.
And they kick him down into the damn thing. So I'm not sure. When you say how do we treat our politicians, you're right. The tail is wagging the dog, and we have allowed that to happen. The people get the government that it deserves. We shouldn't be complaining because we allow this to happen every 5 years, and we do nothing about it. Next couple of years, maybe we're gonna vote for the next side because we're not looking at continuance. There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Sorry, I call in to get on to Cairo News.
Yes, you want to Cairo News. Please lower your volume on the radio.
Yes, my two beloved brothers, Yog and Leonard Gildarie.
Yes.
I try to get on along. This election that's going on and people talking about money to pay. GCOM already get money to do his election. Election is finished, so they have to pay the people. We ain't got nobody more else to give them. That way we have to, most importantly, let them know. So they could stretch it how long they want. It doesn't matter. They still have to find the money from the $8 billion that we give to them. It's heartbreaking, man. These things we gotta get this thing together. All
right.
Yes.
Does it, Carlo?
Man, some other thing, but anyhow, leave that for now. I'm glad to get through. Yes, my two brothers. I'll listen to you all tonight again.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
And York, to come back to that, what that other caller would have said, this time during the 3 months that we would have been waiting on GCOM to give us something, he's not getting work and so on. And so we understand, many people, this is something, and we've been saying it, you and I, it's something that we could very well have done without. And it's like sitting down every day here telling the people, we have no good news to give to you. We're talking almost the same thing every single day. It's not an easy thing. I'm not sure whether the politicians, before we go to the lines, I'm not sure whether the politicians are sitting down listening, but your legacy, it says a lot about your legacy in the end. I'm going to be writing, I'm going to be having some lovely things to say, and we're going to continue saying it. Don't you have any care in the world as to what kind of legacy you're leaving as a politician? What does Ananandlal have? I'm just calling a name with all due respect here. What does Yog Mahadeo, Gildarie have to say for themselves? They're sitting on both sides of the equation there. What did they do for this country? What should we remember them by? These are the questions that people are going to ask, and we're going to remember the March the 2nd, 2020 elections, Yog, and we're going to remember what they did to the country and what the people had to endure when we were trying to fight and deal with COVID-19. COVID-19 is attacking the entire world. We could do very little about that, and we can't blame the politicians for COVID-19. It's something we have to deal with. But we could deal with elections 2020, and it's something we should not have been dealing with at this point in time. Suriname has done very well about it. How could a small nation like that doesn't have the resources like we do deal with it and deal with it in a successful manner? You heard Ivan Cairo this morning. You heard what they said and what they're able to go through. We here in a little country like Trinidad that is almost free of it, and they're about to look at opening back of some kind of business, maybe the borders in a little phased manner. And we talking about opening our borders and the figures are climbing. What are we doing? There's a caller in here. Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. You're on Kaicho Radio?
Yes, I have 2 points to make. One, after listening to you guys, one, it's not the politician who caused this uproar. This up thing with GCOM is solely the GCOM chair. She want this to finish in the right way, as she promised. She said the only way she know is the legal way. Had she wanted to done in this way, it would have been done. She is the one who encouraged to sit quietly at Ashman buildings and everything, and she enjoyed the full picture. She is the one, not the politician. The second thing is that you guys don't worry about fresh election. We won't have a fresh election. The ballot has spoken the will of the people, and that is what the recount takes into effect. The ballot, not all these dead and living and ghosts and spirits and whoever. Don't matter with all of that. Y'all know what I heard. It's the ballot that have to speak, and they have to have a difference to show that the election was not how was expected for them to call a fresh election. It's about 17,000. They have to show probably 5,000. They have to show, so there will be no fresh election. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Did you discuss fresh elections? I'm not even contemplating that. And that's not something we should be contemplating. I don't think we could stand that for another 5 years at least. And even if there's a new government, when a new government goes into place, they would have to make it a big priority. Electoral reforms as well. I'm not sure it's so much electoral, but constitutional. Definitely some major changes there, and we'd have to start looking at the way we do things and the way that we treat our politicians too. I'd have to disagree with that caller there. Our politicians, don't think GCOM will take it upon itself to have done what they would have transpired over the last couple of weeks. They had to be directed. There was some manipulations. There was some direction that was happening there. It could not have happened. Yolita Moore could not have gone in there and done what she would have done. We would not have seen many things transpiring. So we could talk about it from now till tomorrow morning. There's going to be some conclusions that's going to be made that is not going to be refuted. Yog, probably some quick things from you.
And quickly, let's go back to the COVID thing because there seems to be talks about reopening the country. I think, I want to defer to what one of our doctors has advised, medical persons would have advised, that nothing is wrong with opening up the country if it can be done in a phased and controlled manner. Because at the end of the day, without knowing, Leonard, nobody knows if we are increasing or decreasing. Remember Dr. Mahadeo had told us that this whole thing about establishing a baseline is extremely important. Unless you can establish a baseline, get a trend going, you don't know whether you're going up or you're going down, whether you are increasing or decreasing. So that's one. And with regards to the elections, the caller is right from one perspective, but one can only contemplate the nightmare. If we got to get fresh elections in this country, Leonard, how long will it take us to get fresh elections? GCOM went to CCJ to say they needed a year to be prepared for elections. Guess what? They got a lot more time than the CCJ gave them, but were they prepared? That's a question everybody has to answer. But at the bottom line, Leonard, is GCOM has to make a declaration following this recount. The process will have to come to an end. GCOM will have to declare, a government will have to be sworn in, and then elections petitions or whatever can look at vitiating or nullifying these elections. That's another story, and we'll be here talking about it if or when. I certainly think when it happens. But for now, there's nothing that can remove a declaration from the cards in the immediate future.
And I agree with you, and that's the whole point of the recount. I think we have time to take a quick call here right now. Yes, good afternoon, caller, you on the air?
I agree with you. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sorry, you on the air?
Mr. Gildarie and Dr. Yog.
Yes.
Now, all these things with GCOM, it go back to commitment. These dead people and all these people who migrate, they are the ones supposed to answer for that. They're supposed to get a list up to date for elections every 3 months. The last state that any time election call in 3 months, they're supposed to be ready. This whole thing about people voting, they're stupidness they're getting on with. It's commitment all the way, and people supposed to check on them. They and the GRO supposed to be. They're supposed to get returns from GRO every month to update their list. And next thing with this COVID-19, look how long, it's about 3 weeks ago, people talking about closing off the Region 9 because of the spiral in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And the Minister of Public Security thought the other day they might have to do it. That doesn't have to be might. They got to do it. You know how much Amerindians in the interior they must be suffering with this thing right now? There's a lot of them. They might have to close it off with the amount of people that contract the disease in Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. So, of course, a very good point there with regards to the border. Yo, in closing, I think you could just remind us this evening, room 592. That's supposed to be very interesting that we're looking at the figures that has been coming out from the recount and what it really means. Just tell us a little what you expect to see coming out.
Yes. And in passing, I would like to invite Mr. John Bunbury to come on the program and show us the section of the elections law that allows GCOM to quash an elections. That would be certainly, I think we can invite that kind of commentary anytime, Leonard, because everybody's view is important to the end of this process. One of the good things that over the past couple of weeks we have been on it is to listen to the people across the country expressing their thoughts and opinions of what's going on. And certainly tonight, we will see the effect of those numbers because everybody's talking about anomalies, alleged allegations are made about persons voting who ought not to be voting. So certainly we'll talk about that tonight to see what's the bottom line. How would the math play out if these numbers are taken into consideration? How would it affect one party or another? Remember, I wish to remind everyone, if you say that Mr. Leonard, what is your great-grandfather name?
James Koo. He was a Chinese.
Okay. If you say Mr. James Koo voted, nobody knows who he voted for. Nobody knows who he voted for. And so to call to make a decision based on an allegation that Mr. James Koo voted is a harebrained thing in the first place, and one would expect the Madam Chair to be working in some other dimension in this world to not see right through that ploy as we are seeing it. So that is something that we wish to call it. But tonight, certainly, Leonard, to your point, we'll be looking at the numbers to see, even if she takes it into consideration, what's the effect on the bottom line. We will do the math as Sir James advised us.
Thank you very much, and we will be doing the math at 7:30 sharp, room 592. Dr. Yog Mahadeo leading the way, myself, Leonard Gildarie. Thank you for joining us here on this special edition of the Elections COVID-19 Watch. We had many people joining us from Brazil, from Connecticut, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us and across our nation. A good day to you people.